Hey everyone, you might have seen some of the tier list videos going around on YouTube. You'll take a body part and then do an exercise tier list for that body part. So chest exercise tier list, bicep exercise tier list. Jeff Nippert's done them, Natural Hypertrophy's done them. I like watching Basement Bodybuilding's critique and criticism of those videos. Eric Boogs probably has the best ones on YouTube, honestly. Atlas Power Shrugged has done an odd lifts tier list. I've even seen recommended on my YouTube some stuff outside of the fitness industry, like fast food tier list or pre-workout tier list. So I have wanted to make a strongman tier list. I've been waiting 13 years for this. So here we go. Time for a strongman exercise tier list. So in a hypothetical scenario where someone wanted to incorporate strongman into their routine, but they weren't prepping for a specific competition, they just wanted to stay ready for any competition, any events year round. Which movements do I think you should regularly do, and which ones do I think you really don't need to worry about? So the tier list, the grading that I use for this tier list is, well, for all tier lists, I guess, I had to look this up because I didn't know when I first saw it. I'm like, why the hell is S above A? S is super or superior, A, B, C, D, and then F is fail. So that'll be the tier list ranking that I'm going to use. And at the end, I'll list one strongman movement or one strongman exercise that is S+, the best. I have 16 of the most common strongman lifts that will endure my harsh criticism. I'm not going to list every single possible variation for strongman movements. Unfortunately, I'm not going to cover the sausage front hold, probably S tier anyways. And realize this video is for local level competition, local level strongman competitors. This is not for elite. Obviously, if you are an elite competitor or competing at the top level, you're not watching a YouTube video about strongman lifts. And you can't have any weaknesses, can't have any glaring weaknesses. You have to be good at everything. This list is designed, my grading criteria has been designed and constructed using science, speculation, anecdote, bias, personal experience, conjecture, and hearsay. So if you disagree with me at any point in this video, I'm sorry, it's not me, it's facts.
Stop listening to anybody but me.
First strongman lift is the log press. So log press is a common event in strongman competitions. It's sort of an iconic strongman implement. A guy holding a log overhead, you know, hey, that looks like strongman. The neutral handles and the diameter of the log make it unique compared to a barbell or an axle bar. But the clean for the log cleaner press is unlike any other overhead events, a barbell or an axle. It's more like a roll up your body. It's not quite a power clean where you jump the weight up and get under it. It's not at all like that, actually. So because of this, because the clean for the log is unique, I think it's important to include log clean and press into your routine. Log pressing, of course, will help your pressing strength, but it will also get you comfortable with leaning back to press. So if you've just been doing a sort of bodybuilding routine and you've just been doing maybe dumbbell overhead presses or very strict standing overhead presses, it's going to feel awkward and uncomfortable to lean back and press, but a big, giant 12-inch log is going to demand that you lean back so that you get over your midline. So it helps you to get comfortable with pressing in that lean back position. And I think the clean has actually some carryover to other implements. It teaches you to stand up with the log, to roll the log up your body. You do have to move your spine through flexion and extension. And when I do the strongman classes at Untamed, if someone new does the log clean for several weeks and they get good at it, once we move to things like the stone, an Atlas stone, I tell them, hey, it's very similar to the log. You get in your lap, you roll it up your body, you stand up with it, and they usually pick it up pretty quickly. So I do think the clean has some carryover to other implements. So for all these reasons, I'm going to put the log clean and press into A tier. Next up is the tire flip. This is my favorite strongman event, but I'm going to try to remain neutral here in the name of science. When you flip a tire, you have to get low on the tire. When you flip a big tire, you have to get low on the tire. You use a lot of legs. You drive your shoulders into the tire, And then once it's in your lap, you're going to use some power and some pop from your lower body and your hips to flip the tire over, or just to inch it up your body so you can get under it and press it over. There was a time when a large tire was the only Strongman implement that I had. So along with my gym lifts, I would treat this tire flip like a barbell. I would program it kind of like a barbell. It was heavy enough that I would do 5 sets of 5 with it. Once I got stronger, I would say I'm going to do 40 total reps with this tire. And I would try to do those 40 reps in as few amount of sets as possible. I remember one time I just did tire flips. It took me an hour to do those 40 flips. I've got a lot of history with tire flips, and I like them a lot. But with all that said, I think that a squat variation, like a high bar squat or a front squat, and then some hang power cleans, are going to better prepare your body for the demands of tire flips, along with conditioning. So tire flips are a fun event, but I'm going to put them in C tier. You can do them, but you don't really need to. Next up is farmer's walk. Most people who do Strongman come from a strength training background, or even a powerlifting background. It doesn't have to be competitive. People just like to run strength programs or squat, bench, deadlift specific programs. And when they get over to Strongman, their grip sort of sucks. Even lifters who follow a high deadlift volume program, when they deadlift often, and they deadlift a lot, and they have a lot of back off sets, that beats your hands up and your hands get tired, so they use straps. They might do a top set strapless and then use a lot of straps for their back off sets. And when they come over to Strongman, their grip sucks, especially when they start moving. Obviously, it goes without saying, but farmer's walks will strengthen your grip better than any other Strongman movement. You might do barbell rows and dumbbell rows and pull-ups and pull-downs, all without straps, which is great for your grip, but those movements are so underloaded in comparison to a heavy farmer's carry, which is sort of treated like an overload movement. Your grip, I don't really need to explain more about why your grip is helpful for a Strongman, but I will. It helps with deadlifts, it helps with rowing, it helps with picking up sandbags, stones, Husafells, anything that involves your arms grabbing things. Grip is very important. The farmer's walk, alongside being a great grip strengthener, it also is a good introduction to learning how to walk with heavy weights. This is almost the defining movement that separates powerlifting from strongman. Powerlifters are good at picking heavy things up. Strongmen are good at picking heavy things up and walking with it. So a farmer's carry can teach good footwork, how to move your hips under load, stride length, all those little tiny details that'll make you more efficient when you're moving with heavy weight. So for these reasons, I'm putting farmer's walk S tier. Don't skip them. Next up is a circus dumbbell. Now, like the tire flip, I like the circus dumbbell a lot because it requires a lot of technique. So this means that I can do well even without a lot of static strength. For most people, the circus dumbbell clean and press is not really a press, it's more like a throw and catch. So holding the dumbbell in a comfortable and secure rack position and holding that rack position as you dip and drive is the most challenging part. If you can master that technically, then you're like 80% there. And if you have good shoulder mobility and you're efficient at dipping and driving and launching that thing up with your torso and your legs, and you have good shoulder mobility, like I said, that catch is a breeze. So what I'm explaining is what I'm trying to say is the demands of the circus dumbbell. It requires a lot of specific technique, but I think that it kind of ends there. The time spent learning this technique with the circus dumbbell doesn't really help anything but your circus dumbbell. You might say, hey, unilateral pressing is important in strongman. Sure, I would agree, but you could just do unilateral dumbbell presses. You don't need to do a circus dumbbell press. Again, it's more like a throw and catch than it is unilateral strengthening work. So I think that the circus dumbbell is selfish and it doesn't think of anything or anyone other than itself. F tier. You're not missing out by skipping circus dumbbell. Next up, we got kegs. So you could treat this as a keg carry or a keg load over a bar. Simply put, the keg doesn't offer anything unique that a sandbag doesn't already offer. A keg even has convenient handles to grab, which makes it easier than a sandbag, I think. it'll crack the concrete or chip the concrete when you drop it. Sometimes when you drop a keg, after heavy use, it'll dent itself, the keg. And it gives you the gnarliest bicep bruises when you load them. I'm just gonna say that it's D tier. It's not a bad implement in itself. It just doesn't offer a ton of unique upsides that a sandbag would. So I'll just go right into sandbags. Sandbag, on the other hand, should be part of every strongman's repertoire, every strongman's routine. Sandbags are great for carrying. It's awkward. It demands extreme positions to pick up. It's like a severe deficit deadlift. You have to get the back of your hands on the ground. You have to learn how to pick it up in flexion. You have to extend it through extension, spinal extension. It can be a great substitute for carrying a Husafell, or even loading a stone or loading a keg over bar. It can be used in your garage because you can drop it on the ground. It's not going to damage anything. You can use it at your gym without worrying about damaging the floor or damaging the implement. So for strongman, if you could only pick and carry one thing, I would say it'd have to be a sandbag. For that reason, I'm putting it S tier. Don't skip sandbag training. Next movement is the deadlift. Now I'm going to lump together all deadlift variations in this deadlift movement here. So trap bar deadlift, barbell deadlift, axle bar deadlift, 18-inch deadlift, Hummer tire deadlift, car deadlift, silver dollar deadlift. It all goes in deadlift. I think that many people would list the deadlift as the most important lift for a strongman competitor, and I would disagree. There are plenty of very athletic strongman competitors with mid-level deadlifts who do really well at competitions, and there are always deadlift specialists, usually powerlifters with big deadlifts, deadlift specialists who come in and do well at one event and one event only. The deadlift. I think that too many people put too much emphasis on training their deadlift. They treat it like a power lifter, meaning they do it with high frequency or they just deadlift really heavy every single week. They try so hard to put 5 pounds on their deadlift PR. They're always trying to push their deadlift 1 rep max. They'll grind their faces off on a top set of deadlifts, and then they just continue to suck at everything else. They'll blow their load on deadlift training only to be sore and fatigued for everything else at the expense of training everything else. So maybe it's just because the deadlift is familiar to them. Maybe people just like training the deadlift, which is totally fine. Do what you like doing. But they might also think that a big deadlift will make them unstoppable in strongman. Whatever the reason, I think people worry too much about their deadlift 1 rep max and not about all the other qualities that make a good strongman. So maybe I'm focusing too much on 1 rep max barbell deadlift. Maybe if you rotated your deadlift variations and if you worked on your 5 rep max, maybe your 10 rep max even, I think that that might bump this up on my tier list. But anyways, it is a necessary lift, and I'm just listing all the downsides to it. I don't really need to list to you why the deadlift is a good movement for strongman. After all, there is no reason to be alive if you can't do deadlift. But I'm putting it B tier. Don't forget about it. It's important. Just don't overtrain it. Next up is the yoke. The yoke. The yoke is a real mother jammer. Let's take like 150% or 200% of your squat max. Let's put it on your spine and let's walk with it until you can't walk any farther. Many people will tout the yoke as being a great movement for developing core strength, hip strength, trunk rigidity, which is true. But in my opinion, I think that all of that can be developed through compound movements like squats and deadlifts. And squats and deadlifts come with another number of other benefits, not just the squat and the deadlift. The yoke, not really. Mitchell Hooper said that he yoke walked 800 pounds the first time he ever picked up a yoke, which just goes to show you how far being big, strong, and powerful goes with establishing a strong yoke walk without doing yoke walk. It is truly an iconic strongman lift. It reminds me a lot of Paul Anderson or some of the old strongman, like the old strongman hip lift. Just pure brute strength, bones of steel, maximum weight lifted, no technique required. But it's going in C tier for me. Next up is the Conan's wheel. So I just did a 700-pound Conan's wheel, the California Strongest Man, and I did really well, placing second in that event in the middleweight division, right behind Doc Mock, who's a stud of a competitor. Even if I did better on the Conan's wheel, he would have been able to stay one step ahead of me, or multiple steps ahead of me. But anyways, even though I did well, I didn't actually train it very much. And that wasn't on purpose. I just had some issues with it bothering my lat in training, and it just didn't feel good. And it was just an energy suck, and I just didn't have energy to put towards it. With that said, I still did a lot of back training, a lot of Romanian deadlifts. I did a lot of glute work, a lot of hamstring work, a lot of arm work, and a lot of conditioning. And I think that it really paid off. That Conan's wheel was a big PR for me. On the exact same Conan's wheel apparatus in the same competition years before. This year I did much better without training it very much. Even though my static lifts are lower than they were at that time, even though I'm a lower body weight than I was at that time, I was still able to PR my Conan's wheel. I think that just being generally strong, fast, and conditioned, having a high pain tolerance, a good amount of determination and grit, and having a strong will to win will get you really far on the Conan's wheel. Since it does not need much direct training and it just sucks the life out of you, F tier. You'll probably benefit more if you really want to train something similar. You'll probably benefit more from just doing heavy Zercher squats. That's my opinion. Atlas stones. Nope, Atlas stones are not next. Fingal Fingers are next. If your gym has these, I would highly recommend trying them because they are a lot of fun. And it's a very cool sense of accomplishment to be able to flip that thing over and hear it crash to the ground. But just being explosive through your hips, having strong shoulders, and being really tall is enough for this event. It does not need to be trained consistently. So Fingal's Finger F tier, triple F. Next is Atlas stones. So Atlas stones offer a unique challenge that no other implement does. There is no, sorry, my watch is going crazy. It offers a unique challenge that no other implement does. There is nothing to grab onto. It develops gripping power, and not just any, farmer's walk gripping power, but squeezing power that'll make every other implement in strongman competition feel easy. It's not just your hands that develop strength, it's your fingertips, your palms, your wrists, your forearms, your elbows, your biceps. Atlas stone training, really hard Atlas stone training, makes your tendons and ligaments sore. Your muscles are firing all the way down to the bone when you pick up a heavy Atlas stone. And beyond just the first part of the motion, the squeezing motion, it teaches you to perform movement through flexion and extension, kind of like I mentioned with the log clean. So you have to get into this really awkward position, round your back over to pick it up. You have to extend really hard and lean back in order to load it up to a high platform. And if you build the capacity and the ability to load a 300-pound Atlas stone to chest height, it'll make every other pick just improve without even doing it. So I'm putting Atlas stones at A tier. They almost got S tier, but I'm bumping it down to A tier because I really think Sandbags edge them out, and Sandbags will get you pretty much all the benefits that Atlas stones won't. Atlas stones just give you a little more gripping power. But main reason I bumped it down is because Atlas stones aren't super practical. They will damage your floor if there's not enough padding or mats. They aren't really practical if you don't train in a gym that does not have them. You could bring some Sandbags to your gym. I don't know if you're going to bring Atlas stones to your gym. And if you have community stones that is shared with other members, they're probably covered in tacky. That alone is sometimes so much of a pain that it's just, I would rather do Sandbag training. So for all those reasons, this is getting bumped to A tier. Still a great movement, iconic strongman movement. Next up, axle clean and press. I think that every strongman competitor should include cleans in their routine. Clean variations, whatever variation you can do. Full clean, doesn't have to be a full Olympic clean. You can do power cleans, you can do hang cleans, you can do hang power cleans, high hang cleans, from the knee hang cleans. I think that cleans will develop general athleticism and power that will transfer so well to a number of other events in strongman. Whenever I host these novice competitions or just these local competitions, there is always a newcomer. that does CrossFit or Olympic weightlifting, and they do so well in strongman competitions, I think because they know how to clean, because they do cleans and snatches. I think that it has a lot of transference to other events. And as far as the axle clean, I think that more strongman competitors need to learn how to clean an axle or just clean a barbell without a belt. Even if you're doing a continental clean where you pause or rest the bar on your body, you still have to have good technique, good pulling mechanics to get the bar high enough to pull, and then to pop your hand over, to pop it up to your shoulders, and to catch it, to receive that continental clean. I think that too many weak strongman competitors go straight to an ugly belt clean. They just kind of row it up to their belt, hold it there for a few seconds, and then struggle to get it up high. I'm not talking about guys at the top level who do belt cleans. They're doing that for efficiency. They know what they're doing. But if you're a weak strongman competitor and you immediately start belt cleaning an axle, I think that you need to take the time to learn how to clean an axle. So even more beneficial than a clean with an axle is the push press. Someone with a strong push press has strong shoulders, strong triceps, strong legs, a strong trunk, and really good coordination and body awareness. They know how to use their whole body efficiently to move weight. Show me a strong push press, and I'm willing to bet that that person is going to be really good in strongman. Show me a strong bench press, not so much. I've seen 405 benchers push press 250 pounds. It's not very good. So take some time to learn how to put heavy weight overhead with your entire body. Now, I'm sort of using the push press, or I'm sort of using the axle cleaner press as a front or a cover for the push press. If I could just list the push press, even though it's not a strongman movement, if I could just list the push press, I would say S tier, probably S plus. But I'm using the axle cleaner press as a front because you can work on your push press with an axle. I think the front squat and the push press are goated movements for strongman potential. If I was to create a strongman character, I would bump their front squat all the way up, and I would bump their push press all the way up, and then I'd also probably bump their athleticism all the way up. So maybe they were a former rugby player or football player. That's high potential for going far in strongman. So axle cleaner press is S tier. You are kidding yourself if you're not doing axle cleaner press. Next up is a push and drag. So this refers to a truck pull, a sled push, a sled drag, a chain drag, a tire drag, anything else that you want to push and pull. Being conditioned is underrated in strongman. Maybe not years ago, like 2015 to 2016, 17, 18. At the top end of strongman, like Arnold Strongman, a world's strongest man, you had Thor, who weighed 465 pounds, and Brian Shaw, who's 450 pounds, and Eddie Hall, and just these monsters that had to be enormous because they were moving a 1,500 pound yoke, doing a maximum deadlift, regularly putting 400 pounds overhead with all different types of implements. But nowadays, especially at local comps, the events are lighter, there's lots of medleys, and lots of really fast-paced comps, so 5 events back to back to back. It pays to be conditioned. I think that really heavy, intense sled push and sled drag is not the best for conditioning. It is hard, and you might puke, and you'll certainly get your heart rate up, but the reason you are out of breath and tired is because you are holding your breath and bracing extremely hard, and your heart rate spikes up to 170 pounds, and then you crash, and you lay on the ground, and you do it again, and you spike your heart rate up really far, and then you crash, and you lay on the ground, and you repeat. You might get through 5 to 10 minutes of really intense sled push, sled pull. This is certainly taxing, it's very fatiguing, and it just kind of bleeds into all of your other training throughout the week. It just makes you want to take a nap midday. I'm not saying this is useless, and I'm by no means saying that it's not helping at all, but it's basically anaerobic work, and oftentimes it's done at such a high intensity that it's just a matter of your legs and body being so tired that you can only maintain those short bursts of effort. I think that a better approach to conditioning would be getting your heart rate moderate to moderately high for a longer period of time, or a longer duration of time, so that your heart and your lungs can become more efficient at delivering blood and oxygen throughout your entire body. Really intense sled pushes and sled pulls sort of just cuts everything off, and then you release. Cuts everything off, and then you release. Just by doing that right here, I can bump my heart rate up in spiked my blood pressure. So I guess you could do sled push and sled drag at a lower intensity so that you're able to maintain that effort for longer and you're able to keep a moderate heart rate for longer. Or you could just do conditioning on a rower, a bike, a treadmill, or by jogging. So conditioning for strongman, I would say, is B tier, but heavy sled push, heavy sled drag, C tier. It's certainly not a waste of time, but there are better options. Sandbag toss or keg toss. This is a popular event nowadays. You'll see it at almost every competition. There's a sandbag toss. I mean, what else is everyone supposed to do with all the sandbags they bought with everyone's Cerberus discounts? There's nothing else to do but buy throwing bags. So anyways, you should probably train it because it's at so many competitions. But like I said in the beginning, I'm grading this with no specific competition in mind. I think a med ball toss, a med ball broad toss, a medicine ball vertical toss, a medicine ball granny toss, those are all fine movements to train explosive throwing movements. It is important to maintain some elasticity in your muscles and tendons if you're competing in strongman, but you don't necessarily need to toss sandbags to do that. I think if you're trying to develop power, you should do it with like Olympic lifts, maybe even a hang power snatch. So people think a hang power snatch demands a bunch of technique, but if you just do a high hang power snatch, it might be easier than a hang power clean because you don't have to worry about the rack position. You just bypass it and go straight to overhead. So a hang power snatch is great, or you can just do one arm, heavy one arm dumbbell snatches. And I think that that's a better developer for power than a sandbag toss. So sandbag toss, D tier. Next is Husafell carry. So this could be a shield carry or a dummy carry. One of the differences between a Husafell carry and a sandbag pick or a or a stone pick is the fact that with a Husafell you can't stand directly over it, directly over its midline like you can a sandbag or a stone. You have to tip it forward, and so when you pick it up you have to resist falling forward as you stand up with it. If your arms, once you get it to your chest, if your arms are long enough, you kind of carry it with your arms and wrists. I actually don't put my fingertips on it. I squeeze my fist as hard as I can and then just hook my wrist against it. So the carry is slightly different than a sandbag. But even though there are some technique considerations for a Husafell, if you're regularly carrying a sandbag or even a natural stone, you're probably plenty prepared for a Husafell. I'm going to say it's C tier. Last but not least, power stairs. This is a very fun event, and I really like doing this event. I've done it in a competition, and I did really well. It is a good movement to overload your traps because you're picking up this tub, this barrel that's 350, 400 pounds, and you're doing like this upright row with it. There's an explosive demand in your hips to extend, to get your knees around, to push your hips forward, and to pull the handle a little bit higher on that second pull. But if you're already deadlifting, doing power shrugs, power cleans, even just upright rows, you're good to go. Power stairs, D tier. So if I was to pick a movement that was S+, it's got to be sandbags. If you have no equipment at all and you're trying to decide what movements, what equipment you should get, what movements you should focus on, sandbags first and foremost. I would get a light sandbag that you can do like sandbag to shoulder with, or that you can carry for long distances. And then I'll get a heavy sandbag for heavy carries or heavy picks and loads to simulate a stone or a keg over bar or a sandbag over bar. Then I would get farmer's handles, a log, because a log clean and press is unique, not like any other overhead events. An axle bar, you could do axle cleans with this. You could also do axle deadlifts with this, and Atlas stones. That's it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Always remember, tread on time.